Everybody, ready for part 2 of the drum part done by Steve Gadd on Steely Dan's Asia, part 2, where we're going to go over the Gaddisms that are in the first 2 solos, or 2 drum breaks, really. Alright? So what are we talking about in this? Let's get to the serious stuff. Okay, now I'm serious. Alright. So, we talked about this in part 1. There are Gaddisms, right? Gaddisms. There are a couple of ideas that he does in these drum breaks that Gadd did throughout his career. And it won't hurt you to know some of that vocabulary. Not so that you can sound like Gadd, because really what he's doing is, you know, one of them he does kind of a bottom thing, which he used a lot, and a cajillion other drummers do it a lot. Including myself, and he kind of does it a different way than I normally do the bottom thing, and I had to kind of learn his way. So we just opened it up, and I'm going to show you, because of learning his way, I created a really cool exercise for the Bottom Triplets, which I'm also going to show you in this. You got the very famous hurdle lick, and then another, I think a slightly different way that Gadd does it than is done by some other folks. So these are Gaddisms that won't hurt you. Again, today's Wednesday. You get called for a gig for Saturday night. You look at the song list, Asia's on it. And you want to be respectable. And yes, maybe some of that stuff that's in there is a little above your capability, maybe not, right? But can we make it sound good? What will we have to woodshed? What's the workaround? And these techniques that Gadd uses are things you can use in everything. So whenever I learn a song that I want to learn, is because I hear something the drummer's doing that's really cool. And you know, so why are you learning it for? Because it was only good for that song. Well, not necessarily. Some of the ideas that, like, Gadd likes this kind of like diddly hi-hat stuff that he's used throughout his entire career. And I like that diddly hi-hat stuff now, and I use it in my career. Although, you know, it's not close to what his career was, especially right now. It's in the dumpster! But it helps my facilitation, because you never know when you're going to hear that diddly Gadd hi-hat snare stuff, right? So if you don't have a gig for Asia this weekend, this will be good for you to work on these things, because these Gaddisms will come in handy, right? And maybe it'll help clarify some things, you know. And again, I'm going to do these things in a way that I think that Gadd is doing it. And I've watched, you know, a cajillion different videos on it, and for some of these things, there's a different interpretation. You know, if you've watched 9 videos, you'll see a different interpretation from 9 guys. I'm going to do what I think is being done, and a way that you could do it if you had a gig for it, that's going to sound a lot like what was done if it's not exactly what was done. And people will think that you are, okay, I'm going to write this down here, right? And remember, the goal is emulate, not to imitate. Emulate, not necessarily imitate, right? So you want to create that essence, and you want to have it in your vocabulary so that you can sound like what was done, but maybe have your own flair with it, maybe have your own little signature with it. And that's what I hope you get out of this. Anyway, let's go right to the practice room now, and let's start working on drum break number 1. I don't know if that's right to do. Maybe it's copyrighted. All right, anyway, here we go. All right, guys, welcome to part 2 of Steely Dan, Asia, the Steve Gadd drum breaks, where we're going to be focusing today on the first 2 drum breaks. So part 1 was the drum grooves. Part 2, we're doing the first 2 drum breaks. And then part 3 will be the last drum break into the samba. And then finally I'm going to do a drum cover of the whole thing. And today I'm going to end this little session with me playing the song, the solos, not the whole song, just the drum breaks. But I'm going to do it with headphones on. You'll be able to kind of, you know, if you listen to what he's doing, you'll be able to compare. but I'm getting too many copyright strikes, so I'm just going to do this with the headphones on so I can play along with it. But let's break it down first. Again, let's go through the scenario. It's Wednesday, you get a call, Saturday night you got to play, they're going to be doing Steely in Asia, they send you the song list, and how are you going to, maybe, you know, depending on your skill level, how are you going to do that song in a way where you pay honor and homage to Steve Gadd, who did a great job on that song, and maybe the guys in the band are kind of expecting some of those things. At the same time, you don't have the time to learn every little nuance he did, right? So what are you going to do? And remember, we talked about this before in part 1. You know, the rumors are that Gadd did 3 or 4 takes on this, and this is probably an amalgamation of the 3 or 4 takes, and probably if they did 6 or 7 takes, every take was slightly different. You know, I'm sure Gadd did not rehearse every one of those fills. He was playing off the cuff. But in there are certain Gaddisms that not only has Gadd used throughout his career, a lot of drummers have. A lot of drummers. He does a lot of things that will expand your artillery, expand your arsenal that you keep with you at all times. All right. So, you know, there's a lot of talk on Facebook. You see, why are you copying what somebody else is doing when it's already been done? But this will help you. You learn things. There's a lick, not the first. You'll see. There's a lick I'm going to show you here where Gadd did it. I realized that Gadd did it a different way than I normally do it, a way that I don't normally do it, and I had to work on it. And that led me to an exercise, and I can't wait to show you that exercise. But let's start with, what do I do first? I get the call, it's Wednesday, the gig is on Saturday. What do I do first? First, I want to know where those hits are, right, in that solo. There's those hits, right, and there's, the first one would be on the end of 4, even though there's a bar 2 it comes out of. Let's not worry about that. It's the end of 4. And then you've got the end of 3, the end of 4, the end of 1, and then you've got two more bars. It's the end of 4 and the end of 1, the end of 4 and the end of 1. And I'm going to sing it out loud so you can hear it, but this is kind of, you know, what's going on there. I'm just going to play a rock beat behind it so you can see where they fall. But this is the house, right? All the other fills, even if you just, you know, even if you just hit those that way because you're not sure everything that Gadd did, you can at least make some of those hits. And Gadd himself doesn't hit all those. He doesn't hit every single one of them. He hits some of them. He generally hits the end of 4, because that's kind of the end. He hits that one. Sometimes he hits in the 2 bars, the end of 4 and the end of 1, but he doesn't hit all of them. He's playing around them, but he knows where they are. He knows where they are. So let me kind of sing it and just play a rock beat through so you can hear. 1, 2, 3. Kind of see where they fall, and even just playing it like that, I want to hit that tom-tom on that end of 3 to get up to that last end of 4. And you can hear when Gadd does that, a lot of times he fills right to 4 and then hits that end of 4. You know, he fills right to 4 and hits that end of 4. So okay, now you've got an idea of the form. And I think that whole cycle, I think they do it twice in the first 2 breaks and 3 times in the third. We're not going to discuss the third break right now. We're going to do that in part 3. So, what is the first Gaddism that he does? And that would be the hurdle lick. The hurdle lick, very famous lick. Sometimes you hear it called the boogie lick, right? It's got a lot of names. Gadd did not create it. It comes from way back when. Max Roach did it, Elvin Jones did it, Tony Williams did it. For the rock guys, Bonham did it. Lots. He's probably the one that made it the most famous. Carmine Appice did it all the time. So many guys have done this lick. So what is the essence of this lick? It's a 3/4 idea, right? And let's just take it as counting as 16 notes. And there's a lot of ways to count Asia, but and they kind of go back and forth between half time and straight time. So let's just talk about the idea of this lick, which is pretty much breaking the 16th pattern, 16th note pattern, or 8th note pattern, depending how you're counting it, in 3 over 4. Watch, what I'm talking about is this: 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4. You got that? So bass drums on 1, the da of 1, and E of 3 and 4, right? So, and I'm filling in between. 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4. Right, but Gadd doesn't do it that way, of course, right? He does what is the more conventional hurdle lick. He throws 30 seconds in there. So instead of 1 E and, he goes 1 E and, 1 E and, right? But he orchestrates it, right? He does 1 E and, 2 E and, 3 E and 4. It's really not hard. Let me put a little more mustard on it. Are you hearing it now? And you've heard that a lot of times. Let me put it in time so you have a point of reference. And that's the hurdle lick. That's the hurdle lick. And Gadd does that all throughout his career, and you've heard a bunch of guys do this. Now, he does it actually 2 different ways. He does it slightly differently in the third break, and we're going to get to that, right? So that's something you want to work on. You want to get up to Gadd's tempo. He does it. It's about where I had it. It's not much quicker than that. It might be a little bit. I don't have the tune going on. But you want to get that as quick as you can possibly get it. It's a very famous lick. You want to be able to do that well, all right? And that's going to increase what you do. And I'm left-handed, so I like to do that leading with my left and 1 E and, right? If you're right-handed, you're going to do it leading with your right, right? Because it's just an easy flip. The hurda, okay? That is the Gaddism. You need to have that lick down. The other important lick that Gadd does in that is the bottom triplets. They're commonly known as the bottom triplets, and that's something that you should have in your arsenal. But now, so I've been doing the bottom triplets since, I don't know, I was 15 or something, or 16, and I've been doing them a certain way. I've been doing them the way I knew bottom to do them. And Gadd does them a different way, and that's what sparked a thing. So I've done Asia before, and I've done those triplets my way, the way that I know Bottom does it, because I never really took that song apart. And then when I started taking it apart for this video, I realized, oh wow, Gadd's doing it a different way. And like the big light bulb went off, and I thought, oh wow, and then I started learning it his way, and then I started putting them together. So let me show you. Let's walk through the bottom triplets in case you don't know them. The bottom triplets, very simple, very famous, right? I'm left-handed, I'm going to lead with my right. If you're a right-hander, you're going to lead with your left. So the way that Bottom did it, as far as I know, although there is some disagreement on YouTube, it is rack, floor, foot. And let's count that. 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet, 1 triplet, 2 triplet. Very famous sound. But Gadd doesn't do it that way. He puts the bass drum on the first of the triplet. He does 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet. And all of a sudden the light bulb went off. I thought, what if you put those two things together? So let me just count through the little exercise I made. And I'm going to show you the easy version of the exercise, and I'm going to show you the way I think you should actually do it as an exercise. So here's the actual thing, the idea, right? We're going to start bar for bar, my way, then his way. Watch. 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet, 1. Now I'm on the downbeats, right? 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet, 1 triplet. So then by doing the single at the end, on that duh, after the single here, right, I switch back to that being the third of the triplet. So let me do it so you can kind of feel it a little bit. I'll do it slow for four bars a piece. 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet, 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet, 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet, 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet, 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet, 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet. Right, and that's how it goes. So let me just show you the exercise. I'm going to add the hi-hat for time and the way I've been doing it. I don't have that thing back to back, the transition. The first transition with the double on the bass I got. The second transition is a little bit funky yet, but let's see how we can do it. Like I said, I just really realized this, so here we go. And you can hear that double, sounds really good. All right, going back the other way, it's not perfect yet, but it will get there, And I'm mainly doing it as an exercise, but that opened up a whole nother can of worms of just, rather than just staying on this, flipping my hands around. And so now just by flipping my hands around, keeping the bass drum on that third of the triplet, I got a whole bunch of stuff for solos and fills that are really cool that I just recently came up with, and I don't know why. I've been playing for years. I never really did that much. You know, I'm mostly kind of an R&B kind of guy, I guess, and I never did that thing in my solos, and all of a sudden it's here. And that came from studying this tune. So that's number two. Number two, the Bottom Triplets. Right, and he does that pretty much from 2 to 4. He does this in that solo. They go 2 and 3 and 4. That is the Gadd thing in there. He does that lick. And that's playing 2 and 3 and 4. That's what that's doing with the triplets in between. That's that lick, and there we go. Let's move on to number 3. Number 3. This brings us to lick number 3, which is the 6-stroke roll, and Gadd has gotten lots of mileage out of this, and let me show it to you. It's 6-stroke roll. I'm going to lead it with my left hand. You would lead it with your right. Right? It's very simple. It's left, right, left, right. You would go right, left, right, left. We're going to put them together though. Triplets, right? Let me count it. 1 triplet and triplet, 1 triplet and triplet, 1 triplet, or maybe if I kept going, 1 triplet and triplet, 2 triplet and triplet, 3, right? But he takes those singles and he puts them on the tom-toms. 1 triplet and triplet, 2 triplet, adding the bass drum with the downbeat on the floor. Nice and slow, and I brought it up to about the tempo that Gadd does it in. So that's the other lick. He does that once in all 3 breaks. He doesn't do it more than once. The other licks, the bottom triplets and the herda, he does in every one of the breaks. He only does that one in the second break. But it is a lick that Gadd has used forever and ever and ever and ever and ever. And I have used it forever and ever. Buddy Rich has used it forever and ever. Caliuta, that is one you need to have in your arsenal. All right, we got the 4th lick that Gadd does several times in this. Several times. I think he does it in each one of the breaks again. But here it is. This is the last and final one that he does, and Gadd has done this a lot. I have done this a lot. I'm going to show you a derivative of it that I use that's really cool. Right? So it's basically a paradiddle. I'm starting with my left. You would start with your right if you're right-handed. Right? It's 1 E and right, left, right, left, left. You would go right, left, right, right. So 1 E and 2 E and 3 E, triple left, 4. Right, let me put that in context. And I think he may put a 1 on the tom-tom too. So when you can do that a number of ways, and it's going to sound right, you know. Let's put that beat. Now let me put a little mustard to it. Now what did I get from that? I gleaned from that years ago. Sound little lick, right? It's kind of like an expanded boogada lick. Some people do that one more time. Very nice lick. Very nice way to end a solo, and like a guitar solo going back to a verse or chorus. Nice way. But that bass drum really finalizes things. Okay, the last thing we're going to talk about is what Gadd does on the hat. What does Gadd do on the hat with the snare in the beginning of the first break? And to be honest with you, I'm not sure. And again, there were 3-4 takes. I would bet you every time he did it was a little bit different. I am going to go into what he does on the 3rd break, because that is really something good to have in your arsenal, and that is really specific. This first break, he does it like 3 times, and he does that Gadd diddly snare hi-hat thing. So what do I know? Again, I want to emulate. I'm not going to imitate, but I know he likes to open the hi-hat on 1. 1, and the bass drum comes on the and. Now, to me, it sounds like he's doing this. 1, 2, and 3. Like that's the first part with the bass drum on the E. He's got a little double there. 1 and 2 and 3. That sounds like at least partial of what he's doing, right? So I might do a couple of versions of that. It's 3 times. 1. That's 1. That's another one. Like that's my favorite one. Right? Right? So all those little different versions, you can come up with your own. And I think that's the least important. What's important about that is that you open that hi-hat on 1 without a bass drum. And that's going to sound like Gadd. Again, I hope this helps you. Probably tomorrow, but you know, for you it'll be one video. I'm going to come back and I'm going to film myself playing those licks, those ideas in the first 2 solos with my headphones on, without the music playing, and then we're going to come back in a couple weeks and show you break number 3. All right, have a good day, guys. That's the solo, the two solos together. And that, I literally did that in, I don't know, I did do it a couple of takes, I don't want to lie, like maybe 3 or 4. And that was the very last take, that was the most smooth. And I didn't want to do 80 takes. I didn't want to do that. Why? Because again, this is about, you got the call on Wednesday, Saturday you're playing the tune. You know, whatever happens, happens. It goes into the ether, you know, and you're not going to get 80 takes on it. You know what I'm saying? And so I want to get you ready for reality. And I got to be honest with you, if you get a guy who, you know, calls you on Wednesday and you're playing on Saturday and he calls out Asia and he wants note for note perfect, have him call me. I'll take care of him for you because it's ridiculous, right? All right, and like I said, if Gadd did that, if we heard a different take, we would have heard a different version of what he did. Anyway, I hope you enjoy that. Hope you enjoy this lesson. Hope you get something out of it. Hope you add some stuff to your arsenal. Part 3 is coming up. We're going to do the 3rd solo, and then I'm going to do the drum cover. Again, I didn't do the music, so you can hear the music on that last thing, because I already got too many copyright things with YouTube, and they got people coming to the door. Anyway, see you on the next one.